Do we think that the 2 cents should stay with the top 0.1%? They can't pitch in 2 cents.
Elizabeth Warren was on The View where she discussed her wealth tax, and the crowd appeared to love it. Now, before I show you this clip, I just have to tell you how I came across it, because oftentimes what I do is I go to these various channels like MSNBC or CNN or The View, and I look at their YouTube page and look for clips that may be something I want to cover. In this case, this clip was actually buried under a different title. So they titled it something about a completely different policy topic, which Elizabeth Warren touched on for maybe 5 seconds in the clip. But the majority of the clip is her talking about this wealth tax. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I noticed this again and again. Whenever anybody, especially these candidates, challenge the wealthy and the powerful, they bury the clips, whether it's not posting them at all to YouTube or whether it's putting them under a different headline. I noticed this again and again. But let me get to this clip here. And I'm also going to get into the actual polling on how popular this issue is, as well as how Elizabeth Warren has been rising in the polls. And I'm also going to showcase, or at least show you a couple other different approaches to taxing the wealthy. But first, here is Warren on The View discussing her wealth tax.
And my proposal is a 2-cent wealth tax on the top 0.1%, your 50 millionth and first dollar. You got to pitch in 2 cents and 2 cents for everyone after that. And with that, we can cancel student loan debt for about 95% of the people who have it. It's ready.
Wow. And now, finally,
But we can do so much more. 2 cents. We can not only do that, we can also provide universal tuition-free technical school, 2-year college, and 4-year college for every one of our kids who wants to get an education. Plus, we can do universal child care for every baby age 0 to 5. Wow. Universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in this country, and raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher to the level.
You know what's going to happen. You know what they're going to say to all of these wonderful plans you have. They use the S word, socialism. How do you counteract that type of an assault?
You know, 43 million Americans who would see student loan debt canceled under my plan. I think right there, that's where you cancel it. You cancel it by making it real. It's in this country either. This is our values. Do we think that the 2 cents should stay with the top 0.1%? They can't pitch in 2 cents on the 50 millionth and first dollar. We're not saying they're bad people. We're just saying when you do that, pitch in 2 cents so everybody in this country gets a chance to build something.
All right, so you see there, at least from the crowd's reaction, how popular this proposal is. But the polling that I'm going to show you here in a minute also bears that out. But before I get there, I also want to share 2 other approaches to taxing the wealthy that you may have heard about. So AOC suggested a top rate of 70% on income over 10 million, which would actually be somewhat below prevailing rates under Dwight Eisenhower and around where top rates were from Johnson to Carter. Sanders' plan would raise the top estate tax rate to 77%. That's the same top rate that existed from 1941 to 1976. This is higher than the 65% top rate he proposed in the 2016 race. So there are 2 other proposals there. I say, why not combine all 3? Then you are really beginning to move closer to a society that is more fair. Now, let me show you some polling on this issue, because regardless of what you may hear in the press by the millionaires that are delivering you the news on television, this is an incredibly popular policy. So the first example here, Gallup poll from 2019 that asks, as I read off some different groups, please tell me if you think they are paying their fair share in federal taxes, paying too much or paying too little. So when you look under upper income people, 62% of people, and it's fairly consistent since 2012, think that people that are upper income are paying too little in taxes. So That's just Gallup. That's one poll. Let me go to another one. So Pew Research from 2017, what bothers American about the federal tax system? So the percentage who say each bothers them blank about the federal tax system. So some corporations don't pay their fair share. A lot. 62% of people say it bothers them a lot that corporations don't pay their fair share. Same with the wealthy. 60% of people say it bothers them a lot that wealthy people don't pay their fair share. Again, showing you that this is an incredibly popular policy to raise taxes on the wealthy and large corporations. Let me show you one more poll here from CBS in 2017. Which groups should have taxes increased or decreased? Large corporations. 56% of people think that large corporations should have their taxes increased. 58% of people think that wealthy Americans should also have their taxes increased. So clearly, based off of polling, the vast majority of Americans agree with increasing taxes on the wealthy and on large corporations. Now, I also want to show you some recent polling here that shows that Warren is rising in support. So this YouGov poll was released on May 29th and has her at 42% of Democratic voters considering Elizabeth Warren. And you have Biden there, of course, at the top still with 45%, and Sanders right behind Warren at 41%. Now, this is a trend I've been seeing consistently, with Biden actually going down. So even though Biden's in the lead here, this is a lot lower than where he was. So Biden right now is losing support. Warren is gaining, and Sanders is staying somewhat in the same range. So I mean, by the time the debates are have started, or let's say by September, when some of the debates have already happened, I think this landscape here is going to look a little different. I think Biden's going to be way down in the polls, and I think Warren and Sanders will be at the top. When you have a message that is different than what other politicians have run on, Warren and Sanders are the only candidates right now not taking any big donor money, not even having private fundraisers. These are two candidates only running on individual donations. Now, I should say, as I have to mention every time, Warren said that she would be open to accepting money from everywhere if she were to win the nomination. So this approach is one she's only taking for the primary. Sanders has always been about just the individual donor, so he'll never be taking any big donor money. So there is a difference there. But with that said, Warren is the only other candidate, apart from Sanders, obviously, that is doing this. No, Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, is also taking this approach. But I'm referencing who right now is in the top. So unfortunately, Tulsi Gabbard, if you're a supporter of her, she's only polling around 1%. So until that changes, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about her, because I just think there are other options right now of people that have stronger support. But just be aware that there are other candidates that are also are only relying on individual donor money. They're just not anywhere near the support that Warren or Sanders has. Now, also, with all of that said, I still think Bernie Sanders is the best choice. And it's simply because he has the fight. He has a 40-year record of fighting for these same policy issues. He's been a leader on each of these issues, and he has shown a willingness to fight the establishment. Elizabeth Warren, unfortunately, I think in 2016, she showed her unwillingness to challenge power when she didn't endorse Bernie Sanders in the primary, instead waited, and then eventually endorsed Hillary Clinton almost at the very end of the Democratic primary. I see her political calculation in that move, her thinking that, well, Hillary's going to win, so I don't want to anger Hillary by supporting Bernie. But she was wrong. Hillary lost. And if she had supported Bernie early on, I think there's a good chance that Bernie could have beat Hillary Clinton. So it's those sorts of miscalculations that Warren makes. And not to mention, she's not great on foreign policy issues. So those are the reasons that I support Bernie Sanders over Warren. Though right now, I do think Warren is a good second choice. Let me just say that. So that's pretty much it. Again, keep an eye on what these candidates are doing, what they're saying, especially, look, there are people likely in your life that support Joe Biden. Make sure you tell those people that Joe Biden right now is deciding to meet with big donors, with lobbyists, with massive corporations, and raising money from them as opposed to having campaign rallies. Biden is your typical politician. He has this phony veneer of being your average Joe, but he totally is not. He's always been on, first of all, on the wrong side of practically every issue his entire career. And on top of that, he's been on the side of credit card companies, of Wall Street. Joe Biden is not your friend. So I'm just saying, like, it's one thing for people just that watch YouTube that already know this stuff, but you have to do the work yourself as well. You have to educate the people in your lives and do it kindly. Don't do it, in a mean way. A lot of these people that support Biden, they just don't know any better. They just know Biden as Obama's VP, so they like him. But you have to educate them on who Biden actually is. Show them. I have a previous video comparing Biden's record to Bernie Sanders' record, and it's clear who's been on the correct side of history and who hasn't. So again, it's one thing to take in these videos and educate yourself. It's another thing to go out and actually educate other people in your life, and I think that's what makes or what will make the real difference here.